Hi everyone, welcome back to a new post today, and in today's post I'll be discussing you about the analysis of the POSCO Act, which is the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, and it was passed in 2012. So 2022 forms 10 years of the completion of the act, which protects the child rights in terms of preventing sexual abuses and trying sexual offences. So the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act was actually passed in 2012, and recently there has been a study regarding the performance of this act by an NGO. It is called as the Justice Access and Lowering the Delays in India's initiative at the Vidhi Center for Legal Policy, and this is in collaboration with the Data Evidence and Justice Program at the World Bank. So this study is really authentic because it covers some 230,000 cases from 485 districts spanning about 28 states and union territories, and that too from 2012 to 21. So what exactly is the POSCO? Now the Constitution has incorporated several acts for several provisions for the protection of the child right acts, and India has also been a signatory to various international instruments such as the Convention or United Nations Convention on the Protection of Child Rights, and also the protocol to the Convention on the Rights of Children to say on the sale of children. So it's called as Protocol to the Convention on the Rights of Child on the Sale of Children, etc. We also have a dedicated body which is called as the National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, and this body has identified various rights of children, like for example right to identity, right to health, right to education, right to family life, right to an opinion, right to be protected against violence, right to be protected from armed conflict, and also right to be protected from exploitation. Other than that, we have constitutional provisions like Article 14 to 18, and also educational rights of the children, where we have right to Education Act, and also protecting them from working and exploitation. So if you look into the origin of the POSCO Act, there's a long way that it came, and we just had in 2012 a dedicated act to deal with sexual offences against children. So India actually lacked a dedicated provision to deal with child sex abuse, and the cases were actually tried under the IPC, which was very ill-equipped to do so. And in 1990s, there was a child sexual racket that was busted in Goa, and in the aftermath in 2003, there was a special expert committee under Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer, which looked into the issue and drafted a code for child rights in India called as the Children's Code Bill in 2000. So these initiatives established actually the basis for a dedicated legislation against child sexual abuse. In 2005, the Department of Women and Child Development prepared a draft bill to address different targeted offences against the children. A study about child sex abuse in 2007 by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, covering 13 states and a sample size of 12,000 children, and also 2,000 adults, etc., found that 50% of these children surveyed had actually faced some kind of a sexual abuse. And contrary to the general perception, the overall percentage of boys that faced sexual abuse was much more higher than that of girls. Then in 2010, the Women and Child Development prepared a draft Protection of Children from the Sexual Offences Bill 2010, and after several rounds of discussion, this very legislation seen the light of the day in November 14, that is Children's Day 2012, where it became an act. So this is a dedicated act for protecting the children against sexual abuse. It is gender neutral, applicable to both boys and girls. Children are defined under the act as those kids under 18 years, and it provides a time-bound investigation and also trial with special courts for the children for trying such cases. So the trial has to be done, the evidence has to be collected within 30 days, and the trial should be over within 1 year with special courts under them. And also it has a duty given to the central and state governments that they should create more and more awareness about this act. Now let's see what are the findings about the working of this very act, so that we can really analyze how well this act has actually worked out. So the analysis found out that 43% of the trials in the POSCO resulted in acquittals and only 14% resulted in convictions. So we see more number of acquittals are significantly higher than the convictions for all the states that have been studied. For instance, in Andhra Pradesh, the acquittals are almost 7 more times than the convictions, and in West Bengal, the acquittals are 5 more times than the convictions. In Kerala, the gap between the convictions and the acquittals is not very high, very less. If you study the findings about the study regarding the identity of the accused, out of 138 judgments that it studied, it found out that in 6% of the cases, the accused people were strangers to the victim, and in 44% of the cases, the relationship between the victim and accused was not identified, while in 22% of the cases, the accused was known to the victim or the children, and in 3% it was their own family members. So what does the NCRB data actually say about the act? Now, as per the National Crime Record Bureau, which gives us data regarding the crime in the country, in 2021, 96% of the cases that were filed under the POSCO Act, the accused was known to the child victim, and in 48% of the cases, it was either a friend or a partner of the victim. Now, in 138 cases that were studied, 5% of the victims were below the age of 10 years, and 7% of the victim was from 10 to 15 years, 28 from 15 to 18 years of age. So you can see people, you can see children experiencing such horrific experiences even below the age of 10 years as well. And for the accused, the age about in 63% of the cases, it was not identified. In 11% of the cases, the accused was between 19 to 25 years of age, and in 10% of the cases, it was 25 to 35%. 6% of the accused were 35 to 45, that is middle aged, and 6% were also above 45 years of age old. Now, with regard to the offences, the penetrative sexual assault constituted like a whopping 31% of the cases, and aggravated penetrative sexual assault 25% of the cases. These two are the most stringent punishments that are under the POSCO Act, and they comprise half of the POSCO cases. Now, this is a very startling finding. So, what's the quality of the justice then with regard to the POSCO? How well? The study has found out that on an average, it takes about 500 days for the POSCO cases to be disposed of, while the act itself says that the trial and the conviction should happen within 1 year itself. Now, pendency also are very high with regard to the cases. There's also been seen one feature is that the cases are always transferred from one court to another, and this causes a lot of delay. And this transfers is either because there is no judge in the court, or maybe there is some other administrative delay that is happening. So how far do the Indian states actually fare on the POSCO being 10 years of its implementation? So it has come to the finding that Delhi has the highest number of POSCO trials in the country, and with 13% of the cases per 1 lakh population. This does not mean that there is a high number of crimes of sexual abuse in children there, but it also means that the act is highly aware, and the reporting of the cases are more in Delhi. Chandigarh and West Bengal are the only cases where the average time taken for the conviction is less than 1 year. This is something good. States like Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Kerala, Sikkim, Chandigarh and Delhi seem to have much more higher reporting of the cases under the POSCO Act. The 5 districts with the highest number of POSCO trials are like Namchi in Sikkim, Delhi in New Delhi, in Central Delhi, Medak in Telangana and West Garo Hills of Meghalaya. Uttar Pradesh is the highest pendency of cases, like almost 3/4 of the cases with regard to POSCO are pending there. So what are the gaps in implementation that this finding, the study has actually found out, which will really be helpful for you to analyze the working of this act, because child rights are an important part of the syllabus which comes under vulnerable sections of the society, and it also is an important part with regard to government policies and human rights as well. So according to the study, the support persons are not available and appointed to the POSCO victims. The Supreme Court had identified that in 96% of the cases, the support persons are not provided to the victims. Now, who are these support persons? Now, a support person can be any person from an organization who is working in the field of child rights or child protection, or an official of a children's home, that is a government children home or a government shelter home, or somebody having the custody of the child. Now, a person employed also by a district child protection unit also is somebody which comes under support persons. But 96% of the cases, they say that there are no support persons to these children. That is, the victims are alone in the entire legal process. The analysis also further notes that the POSCO courts have not been designated in all the districts. As of 2022, 408 POSCO courts have been established in 28 states as a part of the government's fast track special courts scheme. Otherwise, there were no POSCO courts, and as I told you, the POSCO Act provides for special courts for trial of these cases and in time-bound manner. There is also a lack of special public prosecutors appointed specifically to handle these POSCO cases, and there is a high level of pendency. There is lack of awareness on this act also in many cases, which has been identified as one of the gaps in implementation about this. So this is about the study of the POSCO Act by a World Bank unit that has studied the 10 years of implementation of the Protection of Children Against Sexual Offences Act. This is the POSCO Act. So I hope this information was really helpful to you all and will help you to write a better answer in case, because 10 years of implementation, and we should know what has been the working of this act. Some important data coming up towards us as well. So if you did like, please comment to me, like, share and subscribe, and do follow me for your important updates on a daily basis. I shall see you next time in a new video with a new important current affairs that need news that day. And before ending, I would tell you that the Assam Chief Minister has recently pronounced that any man who's going to marry a child below 14, girl below 14 years is going to be tried under the POSCO Act. So that is also one important development that has just taken place today. And so it's also timely to study the implementation and the analysis around this act, being 10 years of implementation. I shall see you in my next post, and until then, it's happy learning. Bye-bye.